Hello everybody. When I was a little girl brought up in Liverpool at the end of the war, the end of the Second World War, I remember very clearly donkeys and horses being used for hard labour down on the docks. They were treated no better and in many ways worse than the country donkeys in Morocco today. So when I hear people criticise Morocco, we sometimes need to remind people that countries, kingdoms, societies move on. And in many ways in the West, we are ahead of Morocco in terms of our economic, financial development, and we no longer need working animals. I think the same is going to happen in Morocco. And we found during the pandemic that although our number of animals has doubled, I think a lot of people who have abandoned their animals will not go back to using animals again, but will use other methods of technology or transport. That's just a fact of life. But in the meantime, we have to do something for the animals who have worked and would suffer, and it is our duty as part of the human race to ensure that their needs are met. And of course, here in Morocco, we have been privileged to be permitted to do that in quite a big scale, really. And we've done it through the services of a charity in the United Kingdom, an association, a charity in Morocco. And I want to just say a few words about that. The charity in England, which is called the Georgia Mule and Donkey Trust, is very heavily regulated by the Charity Commission. And those of you that do live in the West, into the developed world, will know what that involves. We are very closely monitored and we have to work within very tight guidelines. And trustees of that charity are not permitted to benefit financially from the charity. And the role of that charity is to support the charity in Morocco, and many of you who donate will donate to our English bank or through PayPal or through DonorBox, and that in turn is transferred to Morocco, where we have an association. Now let me tell you a little bit about that. Both Charles and I are Europeans, but we're resident in Morocco and have been for 10 years plus. And every time we apply for a renewal of our residency, which we have to every few years, we will not be granted a renewal if we produce bank accounts to show that we have benefited from the charity. What we have to do is we have to produce our own bank accounts, our personal bank accounts, to demonstrate that we have pensions, sufficient money coming in from abroad to maintain us. We are not permitted, we are not allowed by law to be maintained by the charity. And that's why quite a lot of charities in Morocco who are established by Europeans don't quite understand that. They have to be financially viable in their own right before they can invest and develop the charity. So of course, we're very mindful of that. We understand why, we think it is absolutely correct, because otherwise there's a temptation for people just to come to Morocco and say, oh, I'm going to be a charity, I'm going to collect money and I can live on that money for the duration of my time in Morocco. Well, think again. That isn't going to happen. But of course, we have to think of the future. Charles and I have probably got another 10 years if we're lucky. Some people say we'll have 20. I think that's unlikely, but we have to be pragmatic and we have to make arrangements for the future. And of course, we very much hope that our family will continue what we have started in Morocco. And very much part of that family is our grandson, Mark, who some of you may know. A lot of Moroccans know him because he lived here for several years with us. He then went back to the UK and he has a family of his own. He has children, but his heart is in Morocco and he does want to return. He speaks the language. He speaks both some Darija and Berber and is highly respected in the local community. And they call him in the local community, they don't call him Mark. They say he is adopted by Morocco and his name is El Hussein. So I've had to say to Mark, We hope that one day you will be here working in the charity as we are, but you are not permitted to take a penny from the charity. If you are here and you inherit the land, for example, and you are a trustee, you can't benefit financially from that. So you must find your own way of earning a living. And he's hardworking, and we are delighted. You will have seen on our Facebook today that what I believed was going to happen, and I'd been tipped off a long time ago, and people thought I was crackers, but it's happened. It's been reported in the African press that a new sea route is to be opened with the cooperation of Morocco and the United Kingdom. And there will be a sea route for freight from Poole in the south of England straight into Tangier. It will take 3 days. And we have been planning for a long time for Mark to open his own business and be a transporter, be able to bring goods in and out, as well as other enterprises. And again, people said, how foolish, that would never work because he isn't Moroccan. You won't get past customs if you're not Moroccan. Well, that is not correct. We have been speaking to the authorities at both sides, and if he is licensed properly to be an importer in the UK and an importer in Morocco, it is perfectly viable that he will be able to grow a business. And we were so delighted to have that news today. And I think that we will call his business, I say we, it's up to him, it's nothing to do with me really, apart from I just push him all the time. I think Mark will probably call the business El Hussein Enterprises, out of his commitment to Morocco, and he does speak the language. So he should have a fairly easy passage on the long sail, which will be 3 days with other Moroccans travelling. Now, why we are particularly delighted is that gives him some independence and some future, so that if he did continue to help run the charity, he wouldn't have to financially benefit from the charity unless he was employed by the charity. And I don't think it is right that as a family we employ our own people in the charity. We must remain ethically sound and committed to the laws both in the United Kingdom and in Morocco. So on that level, we're all very pleased, as are the local people, and the benefit to us will be this. If we sell things in the United Kingdom, if we have a shop for the charity, that has to be disclosed to the Charity Commission. And it has to be separate from our core charitable purposes. So it will be a retail organisation on which we would have to pay some tax. Here in Morocco, it's slightly easier, but because if we have the boutique on site, it is perfectly legal and acceptable for all the profits from that boutique to go straight back into the charity. But having a reliable transport system between here and the United Kingdom, we can be involved in retail, which in turn will support the charity. And also the big benefit for us will be that it can transport by sea our huge crop of olive oil this year and an even bigger crop next year. And that is the most economic way to do it. Now, I'm not wishing to compete with other people, but our crop has a particular provenance. It's considered very fine olive oil, and of course it takes its provenance from the donkeys. It is the donkeys who are responsible for manuring the ground, and we have excellent olive trees. So we're all very excited. I'm nearly up to 10 minutes. I hope you're with us. I'll tell you a little more perhaps on the next video. So bye for now. Bye-bye.